Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneur Audacity. Today is a really exciting episode because I'm here with one of my dearest friends, Ryan, and I've been really excited about this. I know that you've kind of been pulled in a few different directions on things that I've wanted to talk to you about, but you're a very business savvy guy and you are doing really, really well for yourself. So, Ryan, please, can you give us an intro, who you are, what you do, and anything else that you want to provide?
Yeah, well, I guess basically first of all, thanks for having me. This is going to be pretty exciting for me as well. First podcast with one of my best friends, so it's amazing. Look, ultimately what it boils down to is I'm a real estate agent. I sell pre-owned homes. But before that, as you grow up, you don't quite know what you want to do. So I must have done about 22 jobs all over the world trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Ultimately fell into this because that's what my old man did. My mum's a mortgage broker, sister's a property manager. It's kind of family business in the veins. And over a game of golf, one of Dad's friends offered me a job one day and thought, how hard could it be? And little did I know it was going to be this hard. But yeah, a little bit of background. How deep do you want to go?
However deep you want to go. This is it's all about being audacious, Ryan. So you lead the way.
Well, growing up being an ADHD child in a world where no one really knew anything about ADHD back in the day was difficult for me, my teachers, anyone around me, and my mum and dad to ultimately figure out how to sort of tackle this. And so you kind of end up being the kid with potential all the time. Ryan's got a lot of potential if he would just focus. And I think back then what people didn't realize was that with ADHD, we're not going to focus on anything unless we enjoy it. But if we enjoy it, we'll do nothing but focus on that.
Yeah.
So, I think luckily real estate sort of found me, and I was able to really sort of hyper focus on that, which has ultimately led to the success that's still growing at the moment, really, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And at what point throughout your journey did you decide to go into business for yourself? Because I understand that you were working for someone initially in real estate.
Well, technically a real estate agent is either a sales rep, so to speak, or you have what's called a triennial certificate, which allows you to be a business owner. Ultimately, I don't have to worry about hiring accountants and all the rest of it to have to deal with a lot of what other business owners will have to deal with. But ultimately, on a commission-only job, you are in charge of everything else. So every daily activity that you do will either allow you to succeed or not succeed. So in terms of starting a business, technically, I haven't really started a business from the ground up, so to speak. However, the challenges that you face as a real estate rep, when I first started in real estate about 13 years ago, it was very much here's a desk, here's a phone, good luck. So not only do you not know how to do the job, but you're not given any guidance. So it's like having an electrician start on his first day and going, all right, no worries, I need you to replace that, I need you to wire in this, I need to conduit that, blah, 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 without any information on how to do it. That's kind of what real estate's like. And so it was quite interesting. My attitude is if you don't know, find someone that does. And learn and just continue to learn. So it was interesting. I started at Peered Real Estate, and first day, there's a desk, there's a phone. Didn't really know what to do, so walked up to the leaderboard, looked at who the top 3 sales reps were, and went and introduced myself. Hi, how you going? I'm Ryan. I'm the new guy. Just thought I'd say hi, blah, 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 and they were very dismissive. Oh, hey, how you going? Sorry, I'm busy. Ultimately, what I found out was that, especially back then, real estate was a revolving door. You'd probably have, of everyone that they employed in that office, you might have had 5 or 10% retention after 12 months, ultimately because the training wasn't there. So what I ended up doing was I I would just call those agents every single week and say, hey, listen, do you want a weekend off? Can I do your home opens for you? Can I just come along and watch or listen? And look, for the first 3 or 4 weeks, no one really wanted to give me the opportunity because, it's a revolving door. It's going to waste my time. You're just adding workload to my home opens, blah, blah, blah. I think after the 3rd or 4th week, they got the idea that I'm not going to give up. And there was a lady that was sort of on her way out of the industry. And so she gave me a call back and said, Ryan, look, I think I'm going to quit soon anyway. I've got a few home opens. If you want to do them, you're welcome. Go for it. There was an agent that was the leading agent in Iluka named Todd Utley, and he worked with his wife, Danielle Utley. So this lady had got a listing in ultimately what was his area. And during that home open, this was when the market was very much on a downturn, not too many people coming through, taking a long time to sell. I had a lady come through and she was having a look at the house and she explained to me that she actually lives in Iluka and she wants to downsize from the big house that she's got at the moment. Anyway, got to chatting with her and explained to her, oh, look, this is actually my first home open. I haven't been doing this long and da-da-da. And she said, I actually tried real estate once. She said, it's a tough gig. I said, it really is. I mean, even getting people to help you is a tough gig. Do you think I could ask a cheeky question? And she said, yeah, what's that? And I said, well, look, there's a guy named Todd Utley. You've probably seen his face around the place. I'm wanting to learn from him, but ultimately I'm not really getting that far at the moment. I said, if you're looking to sell your house in Iluka, would it be okay if I gave him a call and asked if we could come and appraise your property together so that I might be able to weasel my way into a position where he might start to be able to mentor me or at least be there to give me advice and help? And she said, Ryan, here's my number. You call Todd, you book in the appraisal and we'll get it done. So anyway, I ultimately gave him a call. He was a little ticked off that another real estate agent had a listing in his area anyway. So when I gave him a call and said, hey, listen, this is what I've got. I'd like to come on board and maybe just, I don't want a commission. I don't want my face on the sign. I don't want nothing. I just want to bring you along and I just want to sit there with my mouth shut and listen and learn. I don't think he heard the entire thing. I think what he heard was I want something out of his patch. And so he wasn't very receptive. And ultimately I just said the exact same sentence back to him. After saying, I don't think you actually heard me correctly. Ultimately, he agreed. We booked in the appraisal and that was sort of my first step into having one of the really good real estate agents want to train me. So from there, we did the appraisal. I started to work with him. I started to join him on home opens and help out and sit down and listen on Monday follow-up calls and everything else. Ultimately managed to develop such a great relationship with him and his wife that when they went away on holidays, they asked me to look after their 22 listing property portfolio at the time. It was my first run-in with what a high-level agent has to deal with. Phone calls would start coming in about 6 a.m, wouldn't finish until 10:30 in the evening, and you did not have time to scratch your bum. Ultimately, I was able to list a few properties for them and sell a few while they were away. Went away and realized, hey, listen, I've got what it takes. I just need to get there.
Love that. I can hear the conviction in you saying that because you give me goosebumps. Oh, I love this. Keep going.
It was a. I mean, and now we're talking. You know, we're now 12 months in the future. I've started listing my own. I've started to get a bit of market dominance in the area that I was tackling in Currambine. And look, I guess ultimately at that time, I was still a lot younger than I am now. My 100% focus wasn't necessarily on doing, making work the priority. You're still young enough where you want to, you don't have a family yet, didn't have a girlfriend, just wanted to hang out with my friends on the weekend and blah, blah, blah. So as much as I was learning, I would have periods of just hardcore work and then periods of sort of relax. So there was only a ceiling that you could get to by working like that. ultimately during that time, though, I tried just about every different idea that I could in terms of marketing and prospecting and all of the rest of the things that a real estate agent needs to do. Most people listening to this would think flyers in the letterbox. Back then there was no Facebook or Instagram, so there was none of that.
Yeah.
And so all these ideas came out, and ultimately I tried some of them. No, I tried most of them, to be fair, even to the point where I approached the school principal of Combe Primary, said to him, hey, listen, I'd love to put on a huge carnival for you to raise money for the school, and in return, I'd like to have my name plastered on all the marketing and then some banners put up on the day and blah, blah, blah. He said to me, so I just want to get this straight. You want to do all the work and you want to give us all the money. And I said that you seem to understand the situation quite well.
Yes.
He
Precisely what's going on.
He said, mate, go for it. Go for it. So, look, any real estate agents listening to this, I wouldn't advise that. Putting on something that big was exhausting, to say the least. We had Royal Show rides, we had live music, we had like 12 food vans, and a one-man band trying to put all of that on while doing the marketing for it as well. The design, the execution, paying for it all was quite stressful. But again, just another one of the ideas I came up with that I thought could work and help ingrain me within that community where I was working. I guess the point of this is that ultimately a lot of these things that I tried ended up costing me more money than I expected. I didn't have the ability to then use that as consistency, and the consistency led to really not huge amounts of results from those sorts of marketing and prospecting ideas. And if mum and dad are listening to this, they'll know how many times they had to bring me food because I ran out of money, or just give me a quick cash injection.
We know how reliable and legendary your family is.
To say I'm lucky I've got my mum and dad is an understatement.
Yeah.
So yeah, we they helped me along that journey. Ultimately to a point where I met my now fiancée, Cherie, and I really sort of made the decision at that point that it's time to actually sort of focus on this and let's go balls to the wall, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what that meant was I started with a company called Exceed Real Estate. And at this point, I'd now worked for 3 different real estate companies. Unfortunately, I hadn't really found home. And I think one of the biggest drivers that one would have is the people that are around them in their workplace. The culture is so important ultimately to your success. Picking you up when you're down, guiding you when you need it. I don't necessarily need the pat on the back, but it's nice to hear it from time to time. And when I met with Jonathan Marlowe from Exceed Real Estate, our morals, our values, our desire for the right culture were just really in line. So decided to jump on board with them. And from there, my sole focus in life was to ultimately succeed in my own mind. And everyone's idea of success is different, right? Some people want success in family life. Some people want success in the amount of free time they have to go surfing. For me, growing up as the kid with potential, probably a little bit of a chip on my shoulder.
Oof, yes, we know that feeling.
And although a lot of the motivations and desires for me are very much internal, not external, I think that it's things like that have caused the internal motivation. Like I don't feel like I need to prove anything to anyone but me. But it most likely came from that,
Yeah.
So, day one of working at the new job, it was all right. So, what do we need to do to succeed? I'd taken a lot of lessons from a lot of very good real estate agents over the previous sort of 8 or 9 years at the 3 different companies I'd worked for, and was ultimately now in a position with my desire to go balls to the wall that I could figure out what this was going to look like long term. So going back to your original question is, what's one of the challenges or some of the challenges you face when building a business with real estate? Ultimately, it was, how do you find someone that's going to help you, for one?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because you've given us a lot of gold, right? And there's so many things that I want to dive into, and something about you, Ryan, you know this, I tell you all the time, like I absolutely admire your mindset and your outlook on life and the way that you will look at something, analyze, and then act. And when, I do a lot of interviews with a lot of different entrepreneurs in many different businesses and fields, and it's all the same, but it's the mindset of like, how do you actually go into that and how do you just lean into those challenges? So sorry, I cut you off.
No.
You're going to answer this, but dive into it because that's something that I really would love you to share on how actually you apply that.
So, look, I think ultimately I break it down really basically. For me, it's you're here and you want to be here. What do I need to do to get there, and who do I need to learn from to ultimately allow me to have the skills to progress to get to that point? And look, I think a big thing is removing the ego, removing the pride in a negative pride way, because you have pride in yourself, but from a negative standpoint, and ultimately looking at how can I make sure that I give more than I receive, so that ultimately I'm able to be in a position where somebody wants to give back to me to allow me to learn and grow. But also chasing, you got to chase it. You got to chase it. You can't sit there and do nothing.
Yeah, you got to hustle.
You got to find it, and, ultimately everyone, I shouldn't say that. People out there chasing the cheap, quick dollar and the cheap, quick success story. Yeah, sure. If you invested in Bitcoin 10 years ago, great, happy you. But for the rest of us, we've got to try and figure it out the normal way. Yeah. And I think it's just what I pride myself on, and what I ultimately now teach to all of the new recruits in our company, as I'm in charge of their onboarding, running through, the culture and how you want to be and what we're about and how to prospect and all of the lessons that I'd learned that I can now pass on to them. I just forgot my train of thought now. Where were we?
That's okay. So how do you lean into it? How do you actually take action on embracing the discomfort of learning from other people, stepping out into the unknown, essentially?
Yeah.
BTW, sidestep. This is a common thing with ADHD. Be like, blah, 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 blah. Your thoughts just gone. Get off the train. It's goodbye.
Completely gone.
That's okay. This is all right.
Yes.
So one thing, Ryan, with you, and you were really good at, you are not really good, you're great at learning from people. And even, you show genuine curiosity to learn, whether it's in any kind of setting. And, we see each other in so many different scenarios and things because we're besties, and it's brilliant. But I just watch you apply that same mindset and that same level of curiosity to grow and learn no matter what you're in. And I love that you brought in the fact of, letting go of the ego and letting go of the pride, because when you do need help from people, you have to sit there and kind of be like, okay, I'm the new person. And everyone, as much as we love to help people, there's also internally we're like, oh, great, new person. It's just, not that we don't want to help people, but, you don't know what other people are like. It's always a bit new. There's always a bit of friction. So having the courage to actually stand there and, be so active in pursuing, hey, I want to learn from this person. And you said weaseling your way into getting help from this fellow in Iluka and Tony, I think his name is?
Todd Utley,
my bad. I love that because it shows that you've got the resilience to just keep on asking. And I think that's such an important thing, particularly when you go into business or you go into learning something. You've got to be able to be humble and put your ego and your pride aside and be like, hey, I'm new and I want to learn, and I want to learn from the best. Because what I've found on my journey is that people are so welcoming when someone shows that they're really interested in learning. And, you know, a lot of the time we're like, oh, I want to learn. And we ask once and then we get knocked back. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll go do something else because I've just been knocked back. But you've been there, you've had your hustle on. Just be like, oh, no, like, okay, I can't get in this way. How can I get in this way? All right, I can't do this. I'm going to try and test these different things to get people to help me. And I think that's wicked because when you do go into business, you're going to get so many no's and, you know, you're going to get turned away from clients, people, partners, like everything will come down on you at some point and you just have to be, okay, brush it off, keep going. So, you know, I'd love to know if you've got any maybe scenarios or like examples of a time where you thought that you were maybe like, oh shit, what have I got myself into? This is really hard, and how you like worked through that.
I think I'll give you a slightly different example because the advice that I was given that sort of allowed me to realize that I think, you know, speaking with a lot of people over my life, there's a worry about, oh, am I bothering them? Am I going to be annoying them? Am I going to be da-da-da? So I'll tell you a story. I just finished one of the many, many jobs I had was working on a farm, the largest stone fruit orchard in the Southern Hemisphere, growing about 40,000 tomato plants when I was in my early 20s for a couple of years. And I came back from that and ultimately decided, look, okay, I want to get into sales. I wanted to sell cars. I love cars, always been that guy. But I thought, oh, well, I've got to work my way up. No one's going to employ me to sell cars until I maybe started in a lower position. So I thought maybe I get a job selling phones. That would be great on my resume, and then ultimately I can maybe move up. So I went and sat down with my old man, who's started you know, quite large business, and said to him, Dad, what do I do? This is, you know, I'm getting knocked back from applications to sell phones. How am I going to get a job selling cars? He said, right, this is what we're going to do. He handed me some money and he said, take my car, head down the shops, go buy yourself a suit. He said, and while you're away, I'm going to write your resume. He said, then you're going to head out today and you're going to go into Wangara and you're going to go into absolutely every dealership along that strip and you're going to ask to speak to the boss. And you're going to sit there and wait until the boss is free. You're going to personally hand him your resume. You're going to say, hey, look, I don't know if you've got a job going or not, but I'd love an opportunity for an interview. You know, and then just keep doing that. And I said to him, Dad, well, what's the point? If they don't have a job going, why am I going to do that? He said, listen, just this is what you're going to, and I kept fighting him on it. I says, okay, so I go out there and then no one calls me back. Then what? He said, you're going to call them the next day and you're going to ask them if another job has popped up since yesterday. And I said, Dad, but that's just going to annoy them. And then I'm not going to get who's going to employ someone that annoys them? He said, listen, I'm a business owner. He said, if someone came into my office, said they wanted to speak to me directly, waited 30 or 45 minutes to speak to me directly, handed me their resume personally, and then called me every day after that to see if there was a job opportunity available yet. He said, I would find a job for them. I would make a job for them until we could slip them into the right spot. He's like, because you cannot teach that level of desire, that level of discipline, that level of work ethic that can be shown by a very simple thing. He said, and no business owner is going to look at that as you annoying them. And I thought, okay, no worries. So ultimately went out that day, handed out all my resumes in a suit, ended up having to wait long periods of time sometimes. And to be honest, I left there thinking this is a waste of time. You know, they would only speak to me for 30 seconds at most. Okay, thanks, mate. We'll let you know. You know, nothing available at the moment. Driving home, called Dad. He said, how'd it go? And I said, oh, look, I don't think I'm going to get anything from that. He said, that's all right. You just give him a call tomorrow. All right, I'll see you in a bit. And then I hung up and I got a phone call back from a guy named John Ball, who was dealer principal for New Ford in Wangara. He said, hey, mate, look, you've just met me. You've just dropped in a resume. He said, look, we may actually have a job available in used cars. When could you come back for for a meeting. I said, well, I'll turn around now if you want. He said, look,
Yeah.
I'm busy this afternoon. Let's make it tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Went back the next day, sat down for the meeting and walked out of there with a job selling used cars at Ford. And I think that was probably my first lesson in, you just don't ever give up. Don't take no for an answer. And ultimately, the more you're showing someone that I think for me, when I was trying to get help from Todd Utley and Lee Parkinson and Tony Mullen, which were the top three guys at Peard at the time, it wasn't, I want to take from you. It was, how can I tenaciously attack them with me providing free value to them to hopefully end up in a situation where they may return the favor.
Yeah.
Which is what it was. And I think if you're providing value to someone, I think that's the key, right? Like, everyone's busy, everyone's got their time, but if you're there day in, day out, and look, it might even be value. I mean, if someone came to me and called me every day and said, Ryan, I really want to learn from you, and I was busy, ultimately I would just make the time. I would sacrifice elsewhere to help them because I know that my time's not going to be wasted and that whatever I give them will be utilized.
Yeah.
So it's just push through, never give up. Your brain is going to tell you to give up. It's just, there's two of you.
Yeah.
You've got a subconscious and a conscious.
Yeah.
The conscious you sits there and says, I've got all these goals and aspirations and I want to run every day and I want to eat well. I don't want to drink and I want to live a healthy life and blah, blah, blah. And you're on a diet and you drive past and you smell a McDonald's on Marmion Avenue and your brain just goes, you've been pretty good eating for about a week now. So why can't we just what? What's one burger going to hurt, So you're constantly just fighting that subconscious thought. And look, doesn't matter how good you get at it. Ultimately, I'm still susceptible to that.
Oh, 100%. My guilty thing is if there's like chocolate or some kind of like fudgy dessert in the fridge. If it's in the fridge, it's fair game. I have no self-control. I've got all the control in the world to make sure that it doesn't enter the house. If it's in the house, it's on.
Yeah.
I know myself, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's like, okay, I understand my brain's capacity and it's like learning to work with it. You're like, okay, these are my limits. I can control myself not going into a Macca's or not going into these things. But say like I had dinner with my friend the other night. They bought just like we got pizzas and they bought like the brownies. And I was like, don't leave them here. When you go, you need to take them with you. They didn't. So what did Angie do? That night I was eating all the brownies. So,
and to be fair, I'd have left them there too if it was me for a laugh.
Right? Oh, but it's a thing and we're in this constant dance of friction with our minds of, hey, do more. Hey, don't do more. Like, hey, do less. Like, stay comfortable. And I think it's a hard, like, there's no balance when you go after things. Like, you've got to have audacity. You've got to dive into stuff and really lean into it and just, find people that you can learn from. Like, I really love that you've brought that up because it's such a big thing to be around the right people and be able to learn from others. And when you do show that level of curiosity and engagement and constant commitment to, hey, I don't even know if I'm going to give you value. I might annoy the shit out of you, but I want to learn. Like, help me.
Yeah.
No one's going to, when you're busy, sometimes you're like, oh, this is going to impact other things. I don't know if I have the time, but inevitably, as you said, you would make the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big thing when people think it's like they get one no or they get knocked back a couple of times. It's like if you give up, then you're giving up. But if you just keep going, that person will say yes. And all it takes is, I love that you brought in the word tenacity because it's like, yeah, you got to just do it sometimes. And what I've found is just having a question, like, just asking a question or showing that you're keen and not giving up and just being like, oh, hey, like, what about this? Has anything come up now? What about now? I've had people agree to mentor me who were, like to get in and get a meeting with these people would just be so hard. But I've randomly run into them in the lift, ended up at dinner, and then they've agreed to mentor me. And it's just those moments of having the courage of like, not fighting your brain or fighting your brain on it and being like, hey, subconscious, you're going to sit the fuck down while we go after this. Because it's like we all go through it on our journey, and a lot of people always have the idea of like, I want to do this, I want to start this, I want to go into this business, I've got all these great ideas, and I've faced a lot of shoulda, coulda, woulda, and people that I talk to, and this is like inevitably what's led to me doing this podcast, is to talk to just individual human beings to say like, hey, I started somewhere, I faced the same thing, but this is what I did, and this is how I kind of got through. So you just got to be able to take the risk and, put your ego aside and put your pride aside. Because particularly being a male, I think it's, I found it's a lot easier. And maybe I'm just being a bit stereotypical here, but I feel like it's easier when you're a woman being like, oh, hey, I'd like to learn. But you're male to male, I know, it can be like a little bit like, you want to learn, like go learn elsewhere. Whereas like everyone's a little bit more kinder when someone's a female, or this has been my experience, obviously. But what would you say to the men out there who can't put their ego aside, Ryan, and can't ask for help?
Look, I think ultimately a lot of the success that I've had and a lot of the help that I've had along the way that I've chased down, or that sometimes lucky enough has just been offered to me, probably my opinion on it is that I'm just ultimately a genuine person. There's no part of me that's out to take, and I think people can pick up on that. I think everyone has a bit of a spidey sense for someone that's being genuine and someone that's not. And if you are just genuinely you, and you're genuine in your approach to whatever it is that you're trying to do, people can see and feel that ultimately. So I've never really experienced what you've just sort of spoken about. I mean, ultimately, I don't understand the emotion of being intimidated.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've actually asked people, what does being intimidated feel like?
Yeah.
Because it's never been a part of who I am. And so perhaps if I can imply, you may have been talking about the intimidation part of going man to man and asking for help. I think ultimately just no, everyone's human. Everyone ultimately goes through most of the stuff that you're going through, whether it be in work or personal or anything else, despite what they put or show on the outside. Most people, especially in, excuse me, especially in Perth, I couldn't talk for other cultures or the East Coast or anywhere. I haven't really sunk my teeth into their culture. But here in Perth, I found that ultimately most people are really, if you come across somebody else who's genuine, they're going to be happy to help. They're going to be happy to be by your side, and guide you in that journey. And ultimately, sometimes it might come down to finding the right person and ultimately realizing that time is very valuable, and not just asking for something for free. But hey, listen, I know maybe you don't do this, but I'd really like some coaching, and I'm not sure if you've ever done it or know what you would charge, but is there an opportunity for me to pay you for your time and your guidance? To sort of get me from here to here, So, I think again, just go for it. What do you got to lose? Your subconscious is a really interesting thing, and I've done so many tests on myself, and this is going to sound completely insane and whack. But
probably won't be the first thing that sounded completely insane and whack that you have said to me, Ryan. Go for it.
Yeah. So ultimately I was just having a shower thought one day, and I realized that, my subconscious and my conscious weren't on the same path, and instead of expending so much energy trying to ultimately convince my subconscious to do something that it doesn't want to do, and is not in line with what my goals and aspirations are, I thought, what if your subconscious is like a toddler that needs training, or a dog that is young and needs puppy training?
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that I was going to start training, or at least attempting to train my subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So the easiest way I thought to do that was through running. So what I noticed when I would go running was that there would be points throughout that run where you're getting exhausted and tired, or it might be freezing cold or whatever it might be. your subconscious starts to say to you, why don't we just walk for a little bit? Because if we walk for a little bit, then we'll have more energy to be able to run properly for the rest of it instead of just like half-assing this run because we're running out of steam and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, so I wonder if I could listen to that subconscious thought, be aware that my subconscious is talking to me, and then ultimately give it a bit of discipline. And so essentially my goal was I wanted to do the HBF Fun Run, which I believe was 12 kilometers at the time. And the goal was I wanted to run that without stopping at all. That was the goal. And I wanted to try and do it in under an hour. So as part of the training for that, what I was doing to try and train my subconscious was every time that I was training and I was running and my subconscious started to talk to me and go, maybe we should walk for a bit, I would go, nope, and I'd run faster. I'd be like, okay, so now, and I'm talking to it, by the way, in my head. I'm like, okay, so just try it again. Try it again. Try to tell me to walk again because I'm just going to make you run faster and make it worse for you.
Yeah.
And I think I was doing something like for the fun run, I averaged about 5 or 5.5 minutes per kilometer, something like that. Ultimately, as we were running through the tunnel, it's very cold. If anyone's done the fun run before, you start off in quite cold weather, first thing in the morning. None of your joints, none of your body, none of your muscles are warm. And the first 2 or 3 Ks are like the hardest.
Yep.
So at about that point where you're really just maxing out where you're at in this run, you're going through the tunnel and you're about to head off the first exit off the tunnel, which is quite a long uphill off-ramp.
Perfect start.
Right?
Perfect start.
My brain was going off its nut. You should just walk so that you can blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, don't use all your juice now.
Yeah. And I was so mad at it that I sprinted that next kilometre, and kilometre 4 or 5 or whatever it was ended up being like a 2-minute 10 kilometre. And I didn't realise until I'd finished how fast that was. But that's just how angry I was with my subconscious. And then ultimately expanded that out to running 5 days a week, no matter what the weather was. So I didn't care if it was thunder, lightning, hail, rain, 42 degrees, whatever it was. It was, we're doing this today regardless. And I found what ended up happening was the harder the run was going to be, the more I was looking forward to it by the end of this experiment. So I remember there was a day I was used to run from Quinns to Mindarie and back to Quinns along that coast road. And there was a day where the rain was sideways. There was lightning off the coast like you wouldn't believe. The rain droplets were massive. Before I left the house, I was so stoked. I was like, this is going to be the best, you know? And I'm one of those idiots that's running along, no one else is around, and it's freezing cold and it's everything else, and I'm screaming, bring it. Have you got any more? Bring it. Like at the top of my lungs.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you know, that along with some other things, I had flat out cold showers every day for 6 months, not because I wanted to, but because I wanted to do something hard every day that I knew my brain wouldn't want me to do, that I ultimately had to do.
Yeah.
And you know, what it did was it proved to me that I can train that subconscious to start doing, or be at least on the same path that I want it to be on. Look, ultimately it turns out to muscle that unless it's worked, it can tend to go away. So you do have to keep feeding that. You do have to keep training it. It's not like, you know, send a dog to puppy school and all of a sudden it's going to sit every time for the rest of its life. But you can do it. And I think if you play around with your mind enough and you start to understand how you actually work, that, you know, you can start to have it work with you as opposed to against you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a process. I mean, I'm nearly 40 now, and it's been, you know, honestly, probably 20 years of really hardcore trying to figure out, you know, how my mind works. What can I do? What are the challenges I face? And ultimately, how can you just get past that where, you know, apart from the workload, which is hard, everything else that you need to do to get you there is ultimately quite easy after that.
Yeah. It's such a big thing, understanding your brain. A little shiver. Understanding your brain and, just not giving into the comfort of it, pushing through it and learn. Like, I love that, you know, teaching yourself discipline, doing hard things, because Yeah, it is a muscle. The brain is a muscle. The more that we use it, the more that we teach it, that we actually can do hard things. And our mind, when we go into business, when we go into setting a goal, no matter whether it be running or starting a company or whatever it may be, we are always going to face that hurdle of our brain sitting there being like, oh, we don't want to do this. Why are we doing this? Hey, let's walk up this hill, because if we walk up the hill, then we got more juice for later. And, I love that you're just like, nah, let's dive into it and just keep going. Because that's for me, that's what audacity is in my, like, when I look at things. It's like, okay, you just got to have the audacity and be like, okay, Bren, I know that you want to be comfortable, but I'm going to be audacious and I'm just going to move through this and keep pushing, because when you do, you then get data. And it's the more data you have that you can do hard things, whether it be having a freezing cold shower every single day for 6 months, running a K in 2 minutes up this hill, like whatever it may be, you've got data. And then when your brain is giving you those thoughts of like, hey, no, we need to stay comfortable, we can't do these things. It's like, well, actually we can, and look at all this data that we've clearly shown that we can do it. So how about you just sit there and shut up and pay attention to the teacher, brain? Thank you. Like, because it's a thing. We get in our own way so much. And, I love that we've covered so much on the mindset side of this, Ryan. And that's something that I really admire about you. Always have, always will, because it's such a big thing. When you go into starting a business, when you go into setting a goal, you got to have the right mindset and being around people who can help you grow and, learn from. Like, I learned so much from you. I don't know if you learned some stuff from me. Sometimes I'm a little bit like, what the fuck is going
from
on?
Time to time, yeah.
Sometimes you're like, you get a little nugget of gold here and there. But, we take a little something from everyone. And I know that your journey and that what you've just shared is going to resonate with so many of our listeners, because, the amount of people who have gone into entrepreneurship who have ADHD and have always been the potential people. And you're like, fuck you, like I can do it. And it's training your mind to say, actually, channel that. For me, like, you channel that chip on your shoulder when people are like, oh, like only if. It's just like, nah, I'm going to prove that I can do it. And I'm going to train that toddler brain of mine. You go to school and let's go.
Yeah.
So no, I think that's awesome. Ryan, I have one question that I ask all of my guests. Now, I didn't really give you much time to prepare for it either. So I'm hoping that as we've been going throughout this recording, you've had a little bit of time to think. What does audacity mean for you?
I would sum that up in one little statement is say yes to everything. And if you don't like it, go home. Now, ultimately, this came from a social setting.
Yeah.
Back when I was in my early teens, and you'd be out clubbing with your friends and stuff, and someone would be like, "Hey, do you want to come back to our house?" And you'd be like, "Oh, well, who's going? And how far away is it?" And blah blah blah. No, I'm good. I'm going to head home, And then the next day you find out everyone had such a great time and you ultimately assumed it wouldn't be a good time. And so then I just went, you know what? Like, honestly, why does everything in my mind feel like if I make this decision, that decision is ultimate and forever, and then I have to spend all this time doing it? The reality is that, you go, and if you don't like it, you have the option to leave.
Yeah.
And so if there's something that you want to do or you want to try, do it. Ultimately do it. Commit.
Yeah.
Come up with a plan. Have the discipline to move forward with it and the mindset to push past your subconscious, and then ultimately give it a red hot crack. And, if you get there and you find, especially if you're ADHD and you get there and you find, hey, look, this isn't actually something that my brain loves enough to put this much work into it, then try something else.
Yeah.
But you're never going to know unless you give it a go. So say yes to everything, and if you don't like it, go home.
I love that. I love that. That's beautiful. It's so true. Because how many times do you toss up these things and it's like, oh, maybe it's just like, nah, just do it and send it, see what happens. And yeah, if you don't like it, get in your car, drive home. Get an Uber, drive home if you've been drinking. Like, whatever. Call
Yeah.
your parents. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not the end of the world.
so many options.
You know?
Even if you fly somewhere and you're like, nah, stuff this country, I need to leave. You just get on a plane and, we make things out to be so much bigger than what they actually are, and I love that you've just covered that because it is. Yeah. If you say yes to everything, if you don't like it, go home.
But give it a red hot crack.
Yep.
Like, give it everything,
Yep.
Ultimately come up with a plan, have the discipline, especially if you're ADD, have the discipline to execute on that plan every day.
Yeah.
Because it's those consistent work habits that you do day in and day out that will ultimately lead to long-term success. Be comfortable with delayed gratification. But, you might find that if you jump in, you do love it. And ultimately, fantastic, cool, let's keep going.
Yeah.
If you don't, call it. Try something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, Ryan. Is there any piece of advice or a quote or something that you want to leave our listeners with?
Any piece of advice or quote?
Further to what you've already covered, obviously.
Life's short. Life is short. You ultimately only get one of them. And unfortunately, you never know when your time's up either. And everyone's desire for success in their own way is going to come from their own internal, fire that burns. But for me, I just wanted to make sure that when I was ultimately on my deathbed, whenever that comes, that I know that I'd left nothing on the table. And so I like to project and visualize. And the thought of laying on my deathbed and realizing that I didn't try to achieve some of these ambiguous goals that I've put together just to see if I can do it, was just horrifying.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, I think the advice would be find out what it is that is your fire inside, really listen to that and utilize that as your reason to, or at least one of the reasons to move forward and work hard and achieve those goals.
Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. That's really beautiful.
You're
Nice way
welcome.
to tie off the show. To our listeners, thank you very much. We'll put all of the show notes for contact information for Ryan, in the show notes. Any preference on where people can get in touch with you if they like to, Ryan?
Usually a phone call's pretty easy. Yeah.
Happy days. That thing never stops for him.
I've had about 17 missed calls while we've been doing this. So
he had strict instructions to put that thing on Do Not Disturb before this started. No, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I feel like so blessed, firstly, to have you as one of my closest friends. I just love you. I think the world of you. You know that. I'm not going to hype on about it. But also, to be able to share your story with our listeners and, just do this interview and just, show people that you can dive into things and have the courage. And I know so many people are going to take a lot from this conversation, Ryan. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me. And for what it's worth, I'm very proud of you taking on your goals and achieving those as well. So well done.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. All right. Thank you to our listeners. Until the next one.